Welcome back to Advisor Growth Lab. If you've listened to the last couple of episodes, you've probably noticed there are a few ideas I keep coming back to. That is intentional. This show isn't about one-off tips, it's about building a way of thinking about growth that actually holds up over time. One of those ideas is that moment when someone hears your name, looks you up, and quietly decides whether they want to take the next step. We talked about that in episode 3, how discovery really works now, how people search, skim, and form an impression before you ever get a chance to speak to them. Today, I want to stay right there and focus on the place where that impression usually takes shape, your website. Because whether you think about it this way or not, your website is having conversations for you all day long, with people you've never met, with prospects you don't even know exist yet. And the tone of those conversations matters more than almost anything else you're doing. What's interesting is that most advisors do care about their website. They want it to look good, they want it to feel professional, and that's important. Design absolutely matters. A beautiful website creates trust. It signals that you take your work seriously. It sets the tone. But design alone isn't what makes someone feel connected. Connection comes from clarity and personalization. When someone lands on your site, they're not sitting there analyzing the layout or critiquing the font choices. They're scanning, they're feeling, they're asking themselves, often subconsciously, is this person for me? That question shows up in different ways. Do I feel comfortable here? Does this person seem like someone I could talk to? Do they understand people like me? Your website answers those questions whether you want it to or not. One thing I've learned over the years, and this is something we stress constantly in our work, is that people connect with people, not firms. Faces matter more than logos. Humans remember faces far more easily than names or brand marks. When someone sees your face on your website, it creates familiarity, it creates recognition, it makes the experience feel human instead of corporate. This is why stock photography can be so damaging when it's overused. Not because stock images are bad, but because they don't belong to anyone. They don't build memory, they don't create recognition. When someone leaves your website, what do they remember? If all they saw were generic images of smiling couples and vague headlines, there's nothing to anchor that memory. But if they saw you, your face, your presence, your tone, that sticks. It also carries through everywhere else. When that same person later sees you on LinkedIn or in a Google search result or referenced somewhere else online, their brain connects the dots. I've seen this person before. That familiarity lowers friction, and friction is the real enemy of growth. Now let's talk about messaging, because this is where design and personalization really come together. I've said this in earlier episodes, and I'll keep saying it because it matters. Most advisor websites try to be everything to everyone. They talk about comprehensive services, holistic planning, customized solutions. All of that sounds good, but none of it helps a real person understand whether you're relevant to their life. Specificity is not limiting, it's clarifying. If your homepage clearly says who you help and what you help them navigate, the right people lean in. The wrong people self-select out. That's not a loss, that's just efficiency. And this is where your website stops being a brochure and starts becoming a filter. Someone who lands on your site should quickly understand who you typically work with, the kinds of problems you help solve, and how it feels to work with you. That doesn't require long explanations. It requires honest, clear language. Now let's move past the homepage for a second. People don't come to your website just to read about your firm. They come because something is on their mind, a question, a concern, a decision they're wrestling with. You already know what these are because you hear them in meetings every week. Questions about 401k rollovers, questions about taxes, questions about retirement timing, questions about risk, questions about whether they're doing the right thing. When your website has pages that speak directly to those questions, something powerful happens. First, people feel understood. They think, this is exactly what I've been wondering. Second, search engines and AI tools start to understand you better. Google, ChatGPT, and similar systems aren't looking for firms, they're looking for answers. When your site answers real questions in plain language, it becomes easier to find. This is one of those moments where episode 3 connects directly to what we're talking about now. Discovery isn't about shouting louder, it's about being understandable to people and to machines. That brings us to the technical side, which doesn't get talked about enough. Your website has to be structured in a way that search engines and AI can read. It needs clear headings, clean URLs, logical organization. It needs to load quickly and work well on mobile. None of this is flashy, but all of it determines whether your site shows up when someone searches or asks a question. If your marketing team isn't paying attention to this, you're invisible in places you don't even realize exist yet. And then there's tracking. If you don't have something like Google Analytics running, you're guessing. You don't know what pages people are reading. You don't know what content brings them in. You don't know where they drop off. When you start looking at that data, patterns emerge. You see which questions resonate. You see what people care about. And that allows you to refine instead of constantly starting over. This is how a website becomes a living system instead of a static project. It evolves with your practice. It reflects real conversations. It supports everything else you're doing, your LinkedIn presence, your emails, your content, even referrals. Because when someone gets referred to you and then looks you up, your website either reinforces the referral or quietly undermines it. So let me leave you with one simple practical thing to do this week. Go to your website and look at it through the eyes of someone who's never met you. Ask yourself, can they see me? Do they know who I help? Do they feel like I'm a real person they could talk to? Then pick one question you answer for clients all the time and make sure your website answers it clearly in plain language with you present on the page. That one change can make a bigger difference than almost anything else you do. All right, I'll talk to you next time.